he is the Prime Minister now. The people out there want to know what he is going to do about the situation. He needs to spend less time whining about the last government and do his job. I thought, Mr. Speaker, that the
British politics was shaken to its core this week when a little-known MP triggered an eruption in Parliament. Katy Lamb, a backbencher with nothing to lose, stood up and, in less than 5 minutes, brought Labour's leadership into the national crosshairs. Her calm but damning remarks challenged years of silence around grooming scandals and directly pointed the finger at Sir Keir Starmer.
Has the Labour Party betrayed the Pakistani rape gang victims and survivors in the most sinister way? GB News' Charlie Peters revealed that rape gangs had operated in at least 50 towns right across the country. When Labour lost control of Oldham Council, councillors requested a full inquiry into the grooming gang scandal so they could out everyone who was complicit in it and a subsequent alleged cover-up. This letter from Jess Phillips was leaked refusing that inquiry, which then sparked quite a bit of outrage. Both the Tories and Reform then called for a full national inquiry.
let us have the truth.
Girls up and down our country whose brutal and repeated rapes were permitted and hidden by those in the British state whose job was to protect them. They deserve justice.
Instead of grandstanding, Lamb delivered a steady blow of uncomfortable truths. She questioned why Labour had consistently sidestepped national investigations into systemic abuse cases in towns like Rotherham and Telford. Her words pierced the chamber, where Labour MPs sat frozen, some in disbelief, others in guilt. Among them was Jess Phillips, typically a fierce voice on women's safety. But this time, there was no speech, no defence, only silence. Lamb's accusations weren't vague. They exposed a party that many now see as having prioritised its image over protecting vulnerable children. And it didn't end there. What followed was political combustion. A Conservative MP, usually reserved, stood up and echoed Lamb's outrage. He didn't just support her call for accountability, he escalated it, accusing Labour's leadership of moral failure and demanding Starmer step down. The chamber erupted. Shouts flew across the aisle. Some MPs slammed desks, others sat in stunned silence processing what just happened. But the damage was done. The floodgates opened and the scandal broke containment.
In January, the Home Secretary said the government would conduct 5 local inquiries into the rape gangs which have terrorised so many innocent children. Over 3 months since the government announced these local inquiries, Tom Crowther KC, a barrister invited by the Home Office to help establish them, knows almost nothing about their progress, and neither do we. Why is the framework for local inquiries now being led by ministers rather than by independent voices such as Tom Crowther? Why is the £5 million set aside for inquiries no longer being allocated but instead delivered on an opt-in basis? And what does the government intend to do about local leaders who say there is no need for an independent inquiry, like in Bradford or in Wales? The girls we are talking about, Mr. Speaker, are predominantly white. The men who preyed on them were predominantly Muslim, generally either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage. One of the victims from Dewsbury was told by her rapist, I quote, "We're here to fuck all the white girls and fuck the government." Will the Minister accept that, in many cases, these crimes were racially and religiously aggravated? How, without a national inquiry, can we understand what part these factors played? There is no question that the state has failed these children time and again. Take the case of...
Clips of Lamb's remarks exploded across social media. Hashtags condemning Labour's silence on grooming gangs trended nationwide. Disillusioned party members began resigning en masse. Live streams showed long-time activists burning their party cards. What started as a speech became a movement. Inside Labour HQ, panic set in. Leaked emails revealed desperation, with strategists scrambling for damage control. Some questioned if Starmer could even survive the weekend. Jess Phillips vanished from the spotlight, cancelling appearances amid rumours she was asked to quietly step aside. And then came the first bombshell leak, one that linked the scandal directly to Starmer's past. A leaked trove of documents from the Home Office exposed a disturbing paper trail. While serving as Director of Public Prosecutions, Starmer's office had deprioritised multiple grooming cases, reportedly out of fear that prosecutions might stir ethnic tensions. His name was attached to several of the memos. The revelation sent shockwaves through Westminster. Protesters flooded the streets outside Parliament, holding up photos of victims and demanding accountability. Survivor groups that had been ignored for years were now front and centre, their pain impossible to dismiss. Inside Parliament, tensions boiled over. Emergency meetings devolved into shouting matches. Some Labour MPs walked out. Others leaked internal discussions to the press. Angela Rayner, already under pressure over her own financial scandal, was rumoured to be weighing a leadership challenge, testing the waters with unions and key donors.
Anna from Bradford, vulnerable and in residential care. At the age of 14, she made repeated reports of rape and abuse to social workers who were responsible for her. But just the following year, aged 15, she married her abuser in a traditional Islamic wedding ceremony. Far from stepping in to stop it, her social worker was aghast. The authorities then arranged for her to be fostered by her abuser's parents. The ringleader of the Rochdale rape gang, Shabir Ahmed, was employed as a welfare rights officer by Oldham Council. And yet not one person, not one, has been convicted for covering up these institutionalised rapes. So why have ministers refused to establish a dedicated unit in the National Crime Agency to investigate councillors and officials accused of collusion and corruption? And I am sorry to say that that unit, Mr. Speaker, must also investigate.
The fallout wasn't limited to Westminster. Constituency offices across the country reported mass resignations. Local Labour branches issued public condemnations. For many long-time supporters, this wasn't just a scandal, it was a betrayal. Even Labour's most loyal allies were turning away. Left-leaning newspapers, once hesitant to criticise, published scathing headlines. Jess Phillips, once seen as a champion for women, became a target of intense backlash. Her statements rang hollow, her credibility eroded. Critics accused her of championing safe causes while remaining silent when it mattered most. Meanwhile, internal polling painted a grim picture. Support among working-class women plummeted, with some districts reporting a 30% drop. The red wall, already fragile, was crumbling fast. The grooming scandal, long ignored by the political mainstream, had finally erupted into the open. Labour, once viewed as the party of justice, now faced accusations of burying the truth to protect its own. Calls for a full inquiry intensified. Survivor groups and citizens demanded action, and in response to growing public pressure, the Prime Minister announced an emergency judge-led investigation, one with sweeping powers to expose failures at every level, including Starmer's tenure at the CPS. But the worst was yet to come.
Arrested by South Yorkshire Police when he attempted to rescue his daughter from her abusers. He was detained twice in one night while, on the very same evening, his daughter was repeatedly assaulted and abused by a gang of men. It is clear these criminals were unafraid of law enforcement. In Kirklees, Judge Marson said, "You were seen with your victim on at least 3 occasions by the police. None of that deterred you, and you continued to rape her." How, without a national inquiry, can we know how and why these monsters enjoyed effective immunity for so long? And how can we be sure it will not happen again? We on this side of the House have voted for a national inquiry and tabled amendments which would guarantee the publication of ethnicity data on a quarterly basis, terminate the parental rights of convicted sex offenders, and make membership of a grooming gang an aggravating factor during sentencing so that offenders get the longer, harsher sentences they deserve. Will the Minister commit today to adopting these amendments to protect our children?
As investigators prepared to dig deeper, new leaks added fuel to the fire. Internal communications revealed that top Labour officials were aware of grooming allegations and chose to remain silent. Some messages even suggested a deliberate strategy to avoid sensitive prosecutions in certain communities. The backlash was immediate. Angela Rayner, once considered the natural successor to Starmer, found herself trapped between the imploding leadership and her own ethical controversies. With union support unclear and public trust eroding, her path to the top now looked uncertain. At the grassroots level, revolt was brewing. Local councillors stepped down. Lifelong party activists turned on Labour in protests, accusing it of abandoning its values. In cities like Manchester and Sheffield, Party offices were flooded with resignations and outrage. The media piled on. Headlines once dominated by Tory blunders were now laser-focused on Labour's internal collapse. Public trust wasn't just fading, it was vanishing. And then came the most serious blow yet. Survivor groups publicly called for Keir Starmer to resign. They said they had been silenced for years, not anymore. By midweek, Parliament was engulfed in crisis. During Prime Minister's questions, the atmosphere turned icy as the Prime Minister laid out a timeline of Labour's failings, drawing a direct line between inaction and leadership failures. Starmer didn't respond. He sat motionless, surrounded by uneasy colleagues avoiding eye contact. Later that evening, a group of MPs submitted a formal motion of no confidence in his leadership. It's expected to trigger a special Labour conference, one that could redefine the party's future. Outside Westminster, the anger intensified. In places like Rotherham and Oxford, towns long scarred by grooming scandals, thousands marched, demanding justice. Protest signs replaced party posters. Cries of "Protect the Children" echoed in communities that once stood behind Labour. Perhaps most damning was a whistleblower report implicating Starmer directly in decisions to stall certain prosecutions. No charges have been filed, but in the public's eyes the damage is already done. With each passing day, Labour's position grows more precarious. Internally, MPs are divided, messages are scattered, and discipline has all but collapsed. A leaked memo urged members to stick to the official line, but most weren't interested. Some described the atmosphere as shameful. Others simply stopped showing up. Angela Rayner, once poised to step in, is now facing her own credibility test. With inquiries into her housing declarations gaining traction, even her allies are unsure whether she can steer the party out of freefall.
That failed victims decide whether they want to be investigated or not. And when will this government step up, use their statutory powers, and give the victims and the survivors in areas like Keighley and the wider Bradford district the full inquiry that they've wanted now for almost 2 decades?
Minister. Hey, there is, first and foremost, I want to say to the honourable gentleman that I'm going to give him some absolute credit as being somebody who has, for years, spoken up about this issue. I pay absolute credit to him, and there is absolutely nothing that I am saying today that suggests that Bradford wouldn't be able to access funding from the Home Office, just as Oldham has, to undertake the work that might be needed in Bradford, and I would very much welcome a conversation with him about that.
Meanwhile, the public isn't waiting for a leadership reshuffle. They're out in the streets, unified in their message: protect children, not reputations. Across cities and towns, Labour posters are being torn down and replaced with calls for justice. What began as a lone MP speech has erupted into a nationwide reckoning. Clips of Lamb's remarks exploded across social media. Hashtags condemning Labour's silence on grooming gangs trended nationwide. Disillusioned party members began resigning en masse. Live streams showed long-time activists burning their party cards. What started as a speech became a movement. Inside Labour HQ, panic set in. Leaked emails revealed desperation, with strategists scrambling for damage control. Some questioned if Starmer could even survive the weekend. Jess Phillips vanished from the spotlight, cancelling appearances amid rumours she was asked to quietly step aside. And then came the first bombshell leak, one that linked the scandal directly to Starmer's past. A leaked trove of documents from the Home Office exposed a disturbing paper trail. While serving as Director of Public Prosecutions, Starmer's office had deprioritised multiple grooming cases, reportedly out of fear that prosecutions might stir ethnic tensions. His name was attached to several of the memos. The revelation sent shockwaves through Westminster. Protesters flooded the streets outside Parliament, holding up photos of victims and demanding accountability. Survivor groups that had been ignored for years were now front and centre, their pain impossible to dismiss. Inside Parliament, tensions boiled over. Emergency meetings devolved into shouting matches. Some Labour MPs walked out. Others leaked internal discussions to the press. Angela Rayner, already under pressure over her own financial scandal, was rumoured to be weighing a leadership challenge, testing the waters with unions and key donors. Katy Lamb, now a household name, has stayed out of the spotlight. No interviews, no media tour. Just a single message on social media. This was never about politics, it was always about the girls. And maybe that's why her voice struck so deeply. It wasn't wrapped in spin or ambition, it was raw, unfiltered truth. And the country heard it. For Labour, there's no more hiding, not behind slogans, not behind silence. The reckoning has arrived. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this.